Hey, what's up everyone, it's JoypadJake here, and welcome to our next retro game review. With the recent release of Tekken 8, I decided to take a look at the title that started one of my favorite video game franchises. Releasing for the arcade in 1994 and the PlayStation 1 in 1995, this game comes from the same creative genius that brought us Virtua Fighter the year before. In the comments section below, I'd like to know when you all first played the game that started the Tekken series and what your favorite installment is. With that said, let's get into my review of Tekken. Our story begins just before the start of the King of Iron Fist tournament, a martial arts contest hosted by Heihachi Mishima, with the winner being promised a giant cash prize. Over a dozen fighters receive this call to test their skills, and whichever fighter you decide to use, you'll follow that character's story. Though admittedly, the story aspect of this game is somewhat limited, and all you're provided with is a small cutscene giving you just a taste of the character's personality, unless they're an unlockable character, in which case, they don't even get that. In order for you to know much of these characters' backstory, you would have had to consult the instruction manual or strategy guides, although the Tekken Wiki has since become a thing, so these plot details are certainly a lot easier to find now. Overall, while this game's story would be hard to decipher on its own, the individual narratives do certainly have their moments. The gameplay of Tekken is very different from that of other fighting games, even those of today. Traditionally, the basic controls have 3 buttons dedicated to light, medium, and heavy attacks, and the 4th dedicated to a special ability. But not this game. Tekken has 4 main attack buttons dedicated to different limbs of the body: the left arm, left leg, and right leg. Various combinations of these buttons can also perform grab attacks. Pressing up on the D-pad will cause you to jump, and pressing down will cause you to crouch. Holding the designated back button will block incoming attacks, and quickly pressing the forward button twice will perform a dash. With all that said, however, the controls aren't flawless and there are some notable issues, including but not limited to a very slow wake-up. But considering how early this game was in the long lineup of 3D fighting games, it ages relatively well, and the core gameplay of Tekken is still very much present in the installments that would come later. The design of this game is good in some areas and not so good in others. Most of the character models look good and have a high amount of detail to them. Some standouts are the Kings and Kazuya, and then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have designs like Kuma. Yikes! The stages are all visually different from each other, but few of them manage to pop in spite of that. And the final boss doesn't actually have a designated stage in this game, so the order in which you see these stages in an arcade ladder is completely random. The music isn't bad, but it's not particularly notable in this game. Some tracks are very good, and others are downright forgettable. The ending cutscenes are pretty short, but they're still fun to watch. While the visuals would definitely be improved in later installments, I still think they're relatively good in this game. This game does have a number of good aspects that make it very fun to revisit even 30 years later. The characters are well designed, and most of them are really fun to use. A lot of the advanced moves are harder to pull off in this game because the movement is much slower, but it's just as satisfying pulling off those moves here as it is in later games. I admit the gameplay is definitely very dated, and the game may not be the most visually pleasing, but I at least consider it to be pretty fun. Although there's a lot that I enjoy about this game, it definitely has its problems, and a lot of those problems revolve around the gameplay. The movement is pretty slow, and the controls are oddly fast to respond to certain inputs and oddly slow to respond to others. Additionally, certain attacks can flat out whiff and miss completely, but if you quickly do the same attack without you or your opponent moving or blocking, odds are that it will hit that second time, despite doing the exact same thing. Another thing that bothers me relates to Heihachi. I understand that you want to make the final boss more difficult to face than the rest of the cast, but Heihachi has the only 3D movement in the entire game, so he can just completely sidestep your attacks at multiple points and attack you from behind. That is just evil! I understand that some characters have moves that can reverse the stances of the two fighters, and I can get behind that, but this is a whole other level of annoyance. One minor gripe that I have in the design department relates to the portraits in the character select screen. I understand that Yoshimitsu and Kunimitsu are very similar characters, but I find it a little lazy that their portraits look exactly the same. I definitely have a strong appreciation for this game, and while I can't deny the foundation that it's set for future installments, on its own, I'm going to give this game a 7 out of 10, and I'd really only recommend playing it if you're already a fan of the Tekken series, or if you're someone like me who just enjoys going back to play older games. Thank you all for watching this review, and I hope you enjoyed yourselves. If that was the case, please leave a like, drop your thoughts in the comments, share this video with your friends, suggest a retro game that you'd like to see covered, and definitely subscribe if you want to see more. Peace out, guys.